Hi everyone, it's Karen here again for Scrapbook.com with a set of sunshine cards created with Concord and 9th Sunshine Turnabout stamp and Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks. Enjoy! I got a bunch of Turnabout stamps from Concord and 9th, which I love, but I was waiting until I got my stamp platform from Tim Holtz so I could use it for stamping, as this type of stamp requires precise stamping and I needed this platform for that. This is called the Sunshine Turnabout stamp from Concord and 9th, and I really wanted to come up with some different ideas of what I've seen online because I really wanted to just try to at least be original, come up with my own ideas for that. So I try not to watch too many videos on how people have used it because I really wanted to kind of think of something that was different. The nice thing about the stamps is that they have this guide at the back, so I made lines of where the center of the stamp is, and then I also make a 6x6 little paper underneath that marks the center, and then all you do is you turn that around as you're using the turnabout stamp. I used a little bit of adhesive, temporary adhesive, to just stick my white background to this paper so that way it wouldn't move when I'm stamping. You can see how to use this in many different videos from Concord and 9th where they show you what to do and how to use these type of stamps, and there's different types of turnabout stamps. I took the fossilized amber distress oxide ink from Tim Holtz, and what I did is I added it to the stamp and then I wet the stamp and stamped with it. I really wanted to get that really cool worn out look, distressed look that the distress oxide inks have, but I also wanted it to be shiny, so that's why I used clear embossing to create this. What I did is I stamped it and then I did probably a couple of stamping, then I used the clear embossing powder from Ranger and then heat set it, and this helped with not only having that really cool distressed look but also made it look raised and shiny. Once my first color was done, I turned the base around, including the card, which turns with it, but the stamp still stays the same. That's the trick of using the turnabout stamps. I took the Spice Marmalade Distress Oxide ink and pressed it down on the paper. Of course, I wet it first, and every time I stamped it twice, I really wanted to have that color really strong in terms of the pigment, but also reacting with the water and creating those really cool distressed looks. And of course, then I went ahead and I embossed it with the clear embossing. You have to make sure that when you're stamping that it's wet enough, that it stays wet enough so you can emboss on top of it. And I heat set this as well. The turnabout stamps can be turned as many times as you want, and I mean up to 4 times usually. So you just continue turning and you can switch colors, or you could do the same color. The whole point is that you're getting the design by turning everything around. Here I'm using fired brick and I'm doing the same thing, wetting it and stamping. But in this case, I just did one stamp image because the fired brick is really strong on its own, so I didn't have to do it twice. So it really depends on the color. You could stamp it twice, but you don't have to, even with the other ones as well. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding the clear embossing ink, powder, and then I am going to heat set it as well. Last but not least, I'm doing the worn lipstick, and this is the last turn on this stamp because if I turn it one more time, it will get back to the position of the yellow again, which is the beginning. So of course I forgot to turn it here, and as you know if you turned it or not because you will notice where it goes. And you can move the magnets around so they don't block everything. So here I also only stamped it I think one time just because it gave a good impression and it was wet enough. So I just went ahead and embossed this as well. So now I had a really cute card in 4 different colors that I had embossed. And then the stamp, I had reached basically the beginning again of this stamping. So this was the first stamp that I did, and I just thought it was a really cute idea of how to do it. So I just went ahead and created it. Now I was going to create a second card, and I had a different idea for this one. So I started again But this time I am not wetting the card. I'm just basically straight stamping with the distress oxide inks. But I'm of course doing it twice. I really wanted to get a good impression of this ink, and especially the latter ones like the yellow, the fossilized amber. I actually did it 3 times because I really wanted to get a perfect image. I cleaned it out, and then I turned the whole base around and took my next color again, which is Spice Marmalade, and stamped with it as well a few times to make sure I got that clear image. So this card I did not emboss. I just left the pigment ink from Distress Oxide inks to basically be the center of attention, because I really like how bright and colorful they are. So I did the Spice Marmalade, and then I went with the Fired Brick. Again, I turned the whole base around and put my magnets back. You always have to check to see where the magnets go to make sure they're not interfering, and you can find a spot for them. And then I went ahead, and this one I did do twice because I really wanted, again, that perfect image, so it was easy to do that way. Because I had the stamp platform, which is the reason why they created it, which is to be able to stamp the same image on the same spot without having blurry lines. Then I went again with the worn lipstick, and this I've already turned the 4th time around. So the next turn would be coming back to the beginning, to the yellow one again. So I thought to myself, what trick could I do, and how could I make this so I could do a huge sunshine burst and not just the 4 colors with a lot of white in the middle, which is all I've seen everywhere. I mean, from what I've seen around from Concord and 9th, they had left it this way. So I thought, oh, maybe if I line up the actual stamp in a different place, will it work? So I started playing around with the X in the middle to kind of make sure that I find the center again, and then basically figuring out which way I could stamp this that it would work. So I'm just playing around, as you can see, and just trying to figure out where it could go, but I really wanted to have it in the corner of the platform because that's the easiest to stamp with. So once I found where I wanted it to go, I started again with the yellow. So I started stamping with the yellow and just checking, and I always check to make sure that it's going to stamp in the right place. So before you stamp, you can actually see where it's going to go. And this one went right beside some of the rays, and I'm just again securing and making sure that it's stamped it really nicely. So the nice thing about this Turnabout stamp compared to the other ones that are out there is that you can actually continue going, and if you move it a little bit, you will get a different design as you're, you'll get it like you can continue the pattern basically. So as you can see, I turned it around, and now this pattern is going to go on the white spaces. So it's not going to go specifically where the other ones were. It's going to actually fill in the white spaces, and that's what I liked about this. So as soon as I found another spot for it, I was able to turn it around and create and fill in these white spaces. Here I'm going on with the 3rd color, the Fired Brick, and it fits perfectly. I really loved how, even though I had moved the stamp, it still worked perfectly when I had changed the direction, not the direction, I changed the position of it. The direction still goes the same, and you still have to turn it in the same way. And this is my 4th turn now with the 4th color, which is the worn lipstick. And I always checked every time I moved the magnets, and I checked to make sure that it was going to go in the right place. So that's what I really liked about this. I was able to create a much more filled card, which is a really nice look that I wanted to have. So sometimes I don't know the meaning of less is more, and I really thought, oh, if I could do it once, I can do it one more time and fill in the last few bits of white. So again, I looked around to see how I twisted it around to make sure that I can fit it in the white spaces, and I found a perfect spot for it, pressed it on my platform, and then started adding colors again. And in reality, you don't really have to go in the same order with the same colors. I started with the orange here because it didn't really matter. The colors kind of mixed together. I mean, not mixed, they kind of like, they're not in a perfect pattern, so it didn't really matter which color I used. So just to show you that you can use a different color in a different order, I started with the Spice Marmalade and pressed on it. Again, 3 times as usual, turned it again, and you see it filled that nice white space. And truthfully, I'm guessing that you could also continue doing this and overlapping the colors and finding more areas until it's fully filled. The nice thing about distress oxide is that you can actually use them to layer color and layer the ink, so that would work perfectly as well. So it was really cool to use this stamp and turn it and use it 3 times, basically almost like a triple turnabout kind of card. And it was really fun to fill in all the white spaces. Here I am doing the last color, and even with this, there was still some white space, which I probably could have continued going, but I really liked the way it looked, and I thought, oh well, enough is enough, and just don't stop adding too much to things, and just they get the idea type thing. So here I am. I think I'm adding the last one, which is the yellow this time, the fossilized amber, and it's just nice how this stamp matches everything perfectly, and you can really create 2 or 3 or different types of look, and you can stop whenever you want. You don't have to do it as many times as I did. There's different types of looks that you can get creating this with this stamp. The last thing I did is just took my water bottle and just splattered a little bit on the background, because I will love distress look, and it created these really cute bubbles in the rays of light, which is kind of looks like, you know, how you see the rays of light when you look through to the sky. You see these kind of bubbles when you're looking at them. Also, another thing is I took some dotted circles from Sizzix. These are the dies, and I cut 2 of the circles for the center, and then I took 2 of the sayings from the same stamp set, from the Concord and 9th stamp set, and using my Sizzix positioner, stamp positioner, I just used my Versamark ink and stamped 1 saying in each one of them, and then embossed it with super fine Ranger black embossing powder. And I used my powder tool, as you saw, to just make sure that nothing sticks to it, and then I stamped the second one, and this was perfect, 1 for each card, and I was able to just have that as a center. And I wanted to keep it really simple because the backgrounds were busy enough, so I didn't want to have anything too busy. Finally, I took my Tonic Studio trimmer and just trimmed some of the edges to make sure that I could either hide any mistakes and also to make it fit into a note card, and just basically trimmed it where I thought it needed so I could add it to the base of the card. Then, once the embossing powder was dry, I took some fossilized amber and just using my blending tool, just inked the back of the circles so I could have a little bit more color on them. And I also cut a couple of strips and inked them with spice marmalade. Finally, I assembled the card using my art glitter glue. I just added the strip and then the circle on top, and then I glued the actual card onto a note card. I used some foam tape to just raise my circle a little bit and then cut off the excess from the strip. For the card base, I cut an orange cardstock and basically created 2 card bases, and then using some foam tape glued the cards to them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked my ideas with the Turnabout stamps and the Distress Oxide inks. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, and I'd love to see some of the creations that you do with the Turnabout stamps. To watch more of my videos, subscribe to my channel, and for other inspiration, visit me on my website. Bye!